More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern-day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Hello. Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Pills. I am Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer, and today's guest is a true pioneer in the field of brain optimization and self-regulation. After years of talent representative in Hollywood, he discovered the transformative power of neurofeedback when seeking solutions for his daughter, who is on the autism spectrum. This life-changing experience led him to found the Balanced Brain Neurofeedback Training Center in Los Angeles. Trained at the world-renowned Othmer Institute and with expertise in qEEG analysis under Dr. David Kaiser, he brings a cutting-edge integrative approach to brain training, helping clients improve focus, resilience, sleep, and emotional regulation. His work is deeply rooted in the functional medicine principles, recognizing that optimal brain health is inseparable from nutrition, sleep, and overall well-being. We have a lot in common to talk about today. Beyond working with private clients, he speaks at corporate events, schools, conferences, advising organizations on workforce cognitive performance. His mission, to help people unlock their full potential by reconnecting with their healthiest, most balanced selves. Welcome, John Mekrut.
Josh, it's lovely to be here. I know we randomly ran across each other, I think, on LinkedIn, and Beyond the Pills resonated with me, let's say it that way. That's part of my underlying philosophical perspectives are the tragedy, the cultural tragedy of over-reliance on pharmaceuticals to fix our problems when they're they're obviously manifold across many, many domains. And I'll go back to some of the historical parts for myself, but the current recognition that we have culturally siloed ourselves into, I'll have an endocrine problem, I'm going to an endocrinologist. I have a problem with depression and anxiety, I'm going to go to a psychotherapist. I have a this, I have a that, and there's always some specialist. Now that's a structural problem in our medical delivery system. It's biased towards specialities because of the finances of it all. Who wants to be a general practitioner and try to pay back your $500,000 worth of student loans on the pittance they pay private primary care physicians? You're sort of forced into a specialty, and it's just reinforced across our culture that there's a guy for that, there's a gal for that. When the truth of the matter of health is it's integrative. There's no option for it not to be, ultimately and finally. And the pill thing is emblematic of that issue. There's a pill for your high blood pressure, your cholesterol, your anxiety disorder, your whatever. No, there's not. There's health, which then would preclude you having to take that pill in the first place. If you eat properly, you're probably not going to have those issues. There are rare genetic disorders that we have to deal with, of course. But yeah, just pick out one. GLP-1, really? Really?
Well, that's a whole nother argument.
That's a whole other show.
I used to call it the pill for the ill, right?
Yep.
But now it's the jab for the ill. Let's move into a $1,500 symptom resolution. It's maddening because
has no end. It has no end. It's forever, really.
Well, pharma and big food don't like cures and they don't like healing because they lose their customers, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
let's dive into that, because you take brain training and then you blend in this whole holistic philosophy, which we both share, which is the body as a whole. Like I said, I say is like it's the ologist for that. It's on the outside of the tree of health, if you will. It's like, I don't need to go see the left pinky fingernail doctor when I have a problem here. It's like, well, how do we get to the whole process? Now, there's nothing wrong with specialization
Right.
when it's used in the context of the whole.
Exactly.
Right? That's where we go with our patients, and I'm sure we'll talk about this today, is if you do the simple stuff well before we go to the complex, we can actually, it's like the Pareto principle, 80-20. It's like if you're doing these things, sleep, like let's talk about brain health, right? Let's talk about the importance of the dishwasher called the sleep cycle, right? It's like we have to get to these things where, and we could go in any direction here, but I love where you open this up and how we have this connection between let's do some advanced modern science here, brain training, neurofeedback, biofeedback, getting into the root cause of what's going on up in the brain. And at the same time, I call it the merging of ancient wisdom of this whole process of treating the body as a whole. It's such a simple concept, right? But it's so forgotten. It's like you got to go to this body part to fix that body part and go to this one and you fix this one. But no, it doesn't really work that way because we are connected beings. Yep. So let's talk about where before we get into the science of neuroscience, which is one of my favorite rabbit holes. Let's talk about how you got to where you
I got here. Yeah.
Because I love your story and the stories that we talk about. Because one, we're also treating people learn through story, right? So this is why we have stories on this podcast is when we get into well care or what I call healing, it's generally from a place where you have a profound personal experience and you talk about it in your story, right? Your daughter being on the autism spectrum and not having what I would talk about this. Talk about how the heck did you get into neurofeedback?
All right. Yeah, fair enough. No, I was, as you mentioned in the opening, I was a talent agent for decades. Very gratifying, lots of fun, had a great time. But I was presented with this challenge, my wife and I, in our life, that this child we had was not developmentally performing up to expectations. It's not her situation. I don't want to overstate it in any way. The spectrum is a gigantic spectrum, as the name implies, and she had certain emotional regulation challenges, some perceptual challenges, some things that from you getting into school and all the rest of it. She's a little behind. So by the time she was 6 or 7 or 8 years old, everybody was like, "Okay, no, this is real. She's really behind." No kidding around. This isn't just a developmental, vagary here, which kids have. Everybody shouldn't be too concerned sometimes when their kid is quote unquote behind the average, so to speak, because it's a wide range of performance that any child can have. So we went through various diagnoses, and finally, somebody with ADD, and there was obsessive compulsive. You get all the labels. Finally, somebody diagnosed her with, and I love this because it's so apropos, PDD-NOS, pervasive developmental delay not otherwise specified. That's a DSM category, and we're like, you know what? That actually accurately describes my daughter. It's pervasive, it's delayed, it's developmental. And we don't know why it happened. So I was very comfortable with that diagnosis. So, but I was like, what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. So of course we fell into pharmacology because that's what doctors tell you to do. Go see these people, high-minded, highly skilled. She must have been on 6 meds, just for this, for that. It's whack-a-mole, with this going to lower her emotional, reactivity to things. And this is going to make her sleep better, whatever. There was a little cocktail of drugs. And we finally realized abruptly at a holiday performance at her school, which she unfortunately was placed in the direct center of this group of kids singing their little songs, et cetera. And there's my daughter, completely vacant-eyed, not engaged in the process whatsoever. And I'm like, well, that's not the result I'm looking for here. Yes, her explosive rages and things like that are, a little more contained, but I don't know who this kid is. This is not my kid anymore. And then that was the truth. And it's like, I still get emotional about it because it was such a profound recognition on my wife and I part to say, I got to find some other way to approach this. This clearly is not her life. I can't sentence her to this life because this is not going to be a fruitful life for her. Frankly, I would prefer the other stuff. I'd prefer her throwing things at me over this. And so serendipitously, someone had told me about this thing called neurofeedback. I'd never heard of it. And that their child was doing this for their ADD or whatever. And, and I was like, listen, I'll go check it out. I'll look at anything, just to see if there's some truth there for me. Doesn't necessarily have to be the complete answer, but is there some truth there that would be useful for my child? So we went on this journey of discovering this, one kind of practitioner doing a particular technique, another one doing a different technique. And we went through a couple of them. And I landed on one that resonated with me personally. This is the Othmers, their particular technique in the infralow frequency domain. I don't want to go down to technical terms, but there are schools and philosophical and technical ways to go about neurofeedback, and some of them are vastly different. So we ended up on that one just because it felt more right to me. And I went, okay, I'm going to be doing this for a really long time. So why don't I go get trained in this myself? And this wasn't some high-minded idea. This was financial. It's like, this is going to cost a fortune. Why don't I go get trained in this? I'll buy the equipment and I'll do this myself. And which is exactly what I did. So I went to the Othmers. I went through all their training stuff and I bought some equipment and I started working and mentoring and dealing with the professionals who had been doing it longer than I have. So I didn't do anything wrong. And I literally experimented on my own child. But within the constraints of proper understanding of the process and how it works. So we went down as probably a year or so, and I said, my sister, let me put these things on my sister and see if this helps. She's got major depressive disorders. Let's see if this helps her. And it did. And myself and my wife and anybody I could convince to let me put sensors on their head, I put them in the chair. With proper advisement. It's like, I'm not doing anything to your brain. I'm not sending electricity into your head. I'm not doing anything weird. Okay. I'm just reading brain waves. Let's just relax for a second. It's not going to be anything uncomfortable or unpleasant. And so after a year or two, I finally said, you know what? I'm falling in love with this. I can see that this is an incredibly useful technique to help people. It's helping my daughter. The end of the story is she got off all her medications and she's having a productive life, unlike anything any of the developmental pediatricians and advisors had told us. She's going to live in a halfway house. She's never going to have a job. You're going to have to support her for the rest of your life, or the state will, or some combination thereof. And I'm looking at these doctors going, no, that's not going to happen. I will move heaven and earth to make sure that doesn't happen. And so the good news for anybody listening is she has a job that she found on her own. She has an apartment. She's got a dog. She has a life. And if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, she's going to be fine. So, which is to me the goal of parenting. You know what I'm saying? So she's going to be fine. That's our job. So that's the good news in all of this. But what it engendered in me was, this is something that I can actually do. Technically, I know how to do this. And I can apply this to random strangers who come to me and pay me for this. Okay. So I quit the whole show business thing and I just jumped in. I'm going to open a clinic. I'm going to hang up my shingle and I'm going to go, come on in. For the first 10 years, it was almost exclusively Spectrum, as you can imagine, and kids with ADD, which the Venn on ADD and Spectrum is enormous. So to this point, I don't care whether they had a spectrum disorder or they had pure, if there is such a thing, ADD. I don't care about that. I'm looking at, how do I help this person to overcome these brain challenges so that they can perform better in their lives. That's all this is about. This isn't about training somebody's ADD or anxiety disorder, depression, blah. It's not about that. Brain training is about performance, peak performance for the human brain. That's literally what it is. And we get caught up in our culture of diagnoses and DSM and blah, blah, blah. And I don't care about any of that. So you can come to me with your, 15 diagnoses that you've had over the last 15 years. And I nod and I go, got it. Yep. Okay. Let's do a qEEG. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on in your brain, because somebody else's opinion about how to label what's going on in your brain is not terribly useful to me. Let's see what the circuits look like. You tell me about your experience of how you are able in this world to conduct yourself well. And that's what it's about. But to circle all the way back, when I first started, I, like most people who do anything technical in their life, they think this is the be all and end all. I'm gonna fix people. I'm a brain mechanic and I'm gonna tune up this car beyond their wildest expectation. And then you find out after 10 years of doing it, some of these people did really, really well, and some people, not as well. Nobody got worse. But I was like, well, what's the difference between these two groups of people? The groups that did really, really well were the people that ate well, slept well, drank water, had a spiritual life, had social connections, all the things that make us a full human being. The people who didn't do as well, didn't eat well, slept poorly, had no spiritual life, didn't own a dog. There's 100 things we ask people about to try to discern, where are you in your life journey? Are you a solitary, recluse, with no friends, and you don't have a pet that depends on you for its existence? I haven't been to church and I haven't been to synagogue in 30 years. What's the context of your life? And the big ones, obviously, sleep and food. So we try to discern those. That was an evolution for me. I got introduced to a number of different people. One of the trainers that we had here, who was a client at first, and then I saw the resonance in her about this, and I said, is this something you'd like to do for a living? I mean, I can train you how to do this. Oh, yes. So she became a trainer. And I find out, because it's her life story, that she had an amazing knowledge base about functional medicine, of which, by the way, I knew nothing. I've got 3 doctors, 3 allopaths in my life. My sister's a doctor. My brother-in-law's a doctor. My uncle's a doctor. I came out of that traditional school of medicine. I didn't know anything about functional medicine. I got introduced to Mark Hyman. I was on his podcast that he did, the internet products that he did, because I expressed an interest with him and his team about wanting to bring the neurofeedback perspective into the realm of functional medicine, because it is a functional technique, but it is not, and I tell your listeners carefully, it is not a fix-it. This isn't electronic Xanax. It's that. Just not. And people think it is. I have people come to me literally to this day.
It's our program, right? It's not anyone's fault, but that's why we're doing this, to raise the awareness.
Exactly.
Once you're aware, you can't be unaware.
Exactly right.
That's how I like to say it.
Exactly right. So again, for your listeners, don't think of anything that Josh and I talk about today as singular cures for anything. None of it is. Having good gut health is amazing. But if the stuff above your neck isn't working very well, you're not going to be a happy person. Same. Turn it around. This could be working really well, but if the below the neck isn't working very well, you're not going to be a functionally happy person. Life is integrative. It has to be. Think about our ancestors. Think about how we evolved as the beings that we are, where we came from, how we got here. It never was this siloed approach that we're currently trapped in. We have to think outside that. So if you're coming to me thinking I'm going to fix your kid's ADD, I'm not your guy. If you are going to join with me on making sure that your child has nutrition and sleep and the proper social structure and limited screen time and all the things that we know for sure in science are valuable, if you're really a partner with in that, your kid's going to have an amazing improvement in their skills. But don't look at neurofeedback to fix anything.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in this. No, it's great, because it's why we call it empowerment, right? It's why we call it patient-centered. We're co-creating the plan. Like, the formula is the same, and we get these massive outcomes. I love how you had this like aha moment. You're like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Why are some people getting better and why aren't other people? And you took a more global look and you say, like, what are the factors that are going on? Oh, and then it led you down this path of where we've always been, right? Where the ancients have been saying, we've been doing this for 1,000 years. You guys have just kind of forgot it for a while.
Exactly
Like
right.
sleep and like nutrition and community and spirituality, like the things that make us whole and make us human beings, not human doings, becomes the journey and becomes the outcome. And thank you for all of what we're saying here. This is not another, I love when people say is like holistic or non-traditional approach to fixing the thing. It's
exactly right.
And I love where you start there, because I start there with my patients and the people that I serve is like, we're on this journey together. I'm your coach. I'm your guide, whatever you want to call me.
Yep.
But I'm not doing the work for you. Like I could give you the protocols and the supplements. I was one of those Hyman, like it's on my name there. Like I'm a functional medicine guy.
Right.
And I've seen this in so many functional medicine, whether you call it hormones or gut health or brain health or stress, is like the doctor who was the allopath and then went over to functional medicine that still went down the path of diagnose, treat, tell you what's wrong with you. Now I'm going to prescribe the green supplement pill for the ills. And here's the protocol. And they skip over all the lifestyle stuff.
Yep.
And then I get in front of them and they're like, yeah, it worked great for 3 months, but then everything fell apart. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? They're like, well, I'm taking my supplements. I'm like, how's your stress level? It's crazy. How's your sleep? Not great. All right. And I got off the bandwagon of my diet instead of calling it a lifestyle, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, let's go back. And then I wash them all out. Right. I go, wellness made simple. Let's do these first. And they're like, how do you explain something so simple yet so powerful?
Yeah.
And I love, oh my gosh. Here's the formula, right? We went to all the doctors. I tried everything.
I've tried everything. Oh my God.
They told me nothing was, I can't see anything. And you're going to have to go down this path of institution and this. And then the dad gene kicked in and the parent says, hell no, this is not. And I love this aha moment. It made me get emotional where you're looking at your child. I have 2 beautiful girls, 8 and 10, and you're looking at them and you're looking at her going, that's not my girl. Right. And then I love this part because it so resonates with me. I went with what resonated. I said, I'm going to try anything. And oh shit, I'm just going to get trained myself. Why not? Like the what if, the why not?
Right.
And you tried, you like, this is the beauty of how we get to where we are, right? You tried your sister and your friend, and all of a sudden you started paying attention. They were getting like results. And you're moving into this place where you started to realize that it wasn't just the thing you were doing. It was the rest of it that created the whole. The part became the whole, which is how our consciousness is moving.
Right.
And you got those best results, and then you started to move people through.
Exactly. Oh, and
story.
I give full credit to the people that entered my life. Now you can say I manifested them. You could say they showed up when I needed them. All true. I met a woman who again came to do training, and I find out she's a functional medicine health coach, and I go, oh, I've heard of that. Tell me what that is. So one thing leads to another. She's now part of the team. My client who became a neurofeedback trainer, clearly had an interest in qEEG analysis. And I said, why don't we get you trained in qEEG analysis? I know all the people. I know the Jay Gunkelmans and the et cetera, et cetera. Let's put you in a place where this is clearly a passion for you. And I think you're going to be quite gifted at it. And I mean, in all fairness, she's a much better qEEG analyst than I am. She does it continuously all day.
It's an art form,
And
right?
it is absolutely an art form.
I've been a fan and a participant and a patient
Right.
of my own in qEEG and neurofeedback. And we share a mutual friend,
Right.
Melanie Berry, who's here in Charlotte with her neurofeedback place. Let's talk a little bit about that, because maybe there's people that just go like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, tell people a little bit about, like, all right, what is neurofeedback? Like, what are you doing here? Because it's an emerging thing, but it's also been around a while. So I want people to understand like the essence of what you do in your practice, because this is really important.
Yeah. Neurofeedback's been around for 50 plus years. Barry Sternman is credited with having discovered the process of being able to train a brainwave to do something different than it does in its natural state, just through the use of what's called operant conditioning. And it's a simple process. You think of training a dog to, sit on its butt to get a treat. It's not dissimilar, right? Make people think that they're animals, but they're not. But it's a biological process. Anything that the brain finds useful in it for its performance will be incorporated. Things that are not useful behaviorally, let's say, are sometimes incorporated because the brain thinks it's interesting. The brain thinks it's valuable. I think of trauma responses, for instance. So depending on circumstances, your brain learns good and bad behaviors internally, which then express outwardly as, good or bad external behaviors. But there's a process going on inside your head that's ongoing 24/7. And the job of neurofeedback is to look at the circuit behaviors, try to connect them as best we can. It's still an imprecise science in that regard. I can't say for sure that dysregulation is going to end up being that behavioral expression. It's subtly different for lots of different people. But let's see where the circuits are not behaving as well as perhaps a representative comparative group database analysis. What neurofeedback does is take your own brainwaves. This is in traditional neurofeedback, not stimulation technique, which is a wholly different conversation. But in the traditional training perspective, we measure your brainwaves. We literally feed them back to you, thus the name. We're presenting them in some fashion, some representation outside of self, where you and your brain get to witness their internal dialogue, their internal fluctuations. What's going on in here? We can represent that on a screen monitor, let's say. There's 100 different ways to do it. If this person has too much beta, not enough, too much theta, not enough alpha, I can represent that on a screen. I can use bar graphs. I can use cartoons. I can use a lot of different ways to do it. Beeping, flashing lights, sound. There's all kinds of ways to alert the brain. This is what you're currently doing. This is because we know that excess beta, that excess theta usually represents as some kind of a challenge for you. You're standing here, sitting over here awake. You've got your theta is off the roof. You're feeling disconnected from the world. You're very internal. I can describe it to them and they'll sometimes acknowledge it, but sometimes they don't even know. I'm just saying that performance is holding you back. That is not optimal performance for the human brain. It's holding back your capacities to correctly calculate sensory information and therefore have a logical and probably accurate a schedule of tasks that you need to accomplish to get a desired outcome. Neurofeedback gets in the middle of that dialogue and says, this is a better way to do it. Observe this. Check it out. What do you think? The brain, in its infinite wisdom, will look to see if this is more efficient than what it's currently doing, and will then adopt that better, more efficient pattern because it recognizes that's better for it, not for Josh or John, for the brain itself. So This is a direct dialogue for the first time in human history that you get to have a direct dialogue with your own brain. Now, we think of it in a cognitive way that I'm observing. It's not, it's below that.
Yeah.
It's the brain is mostly subcognitive. We overvalue our cognitive experience. If I had to say anything to anybody listening, we highly overvalue our cognitive experience.
Well, 90% of it's underneath, right? So
100%.
so I love this because it's tapping into the innate wisdom. Like if you think of like the law of survival, the brain's just going to take the path of least resistance.
Yep.
It's going to take this water flow down. It's like, oh, that's more efficient. Cool. I'll just do that. It's like there's no subjective to the brain. It's just like, no, that's better. Therefore, I go, right? That's kind of how it works. And this is also, in my experience too, with neurofeedback personally, is like you're not really working hard either, right? Your brain is it's gonna do it in the background, which is beautiful, right? It's like, oh, I get to watch a movie or do something, and it's like doing something. It's like hard for the analytical in me going, is there anything really going on here? But then you take another snapshot of the brain, you're like, look. We could go into probably a whole nother conversation about brain waves and where we sit and all this stuff. But like I've been I've been a student of the word stress my whole life and trauma, and I am a high beta guy, and so there's so many tools that I need to use in order for me to calm down into those natural states of alert but awake and calm, right? Alpha, and moving it down into my meditation practice and things like that.
Yeah, well, there's again, not to go too technical, but the default mode network. It's probably something perhaps people have Googled or have heard about. It is the basis point from which we function. It is idling at the stoplight in your car. Your car is ready to go. You just put your foot on the gas, but it's not going to move until it needs to. You tell it to in the car's instance, but your brain is not going to activate until it's needed. That's the right way to be. When it's constantly working when not needed, you're going to feel stressed. You're not going to sleep well. You're going to have a whole host of repercussions from that internal brain posture. You can try to say, oh, I'm going to think about being less stressed, or I'm going to think about being less anxious. It doesn't work. You can't think your way out of any of this. You can't think your way out of depression or anxiety or OCD or ADD. You cannot apply cognitive experience to that issue. It's deeper than that. And then
that's why I think we're opening these conversations of this beautiful golden age that we're in right now, because we have neurofeedback, plant medicines, we've got breath work, meditation. We know all of these affect the default mode network.
Right.
The default mode for me is like, it's your set point, right? And it's underneath all that other stuff. It's that survival part of our brain where we can't think about it, and we think we can think about it. This is why talk therapy has limits.
Yep.
It's a tool. It's not the healing mechanism that I think can be. It's part of the equation. Again,
part of the equation.
How do we go underneath?
Absolutely.
And how do we do this in our modern day? This is why I love neurofeedback, qEEG, biofeedback techniques, is because we have these tools now that you can just go to your office, put on this thing, hang out for an hour, and repeat.
Right.
When we're not fixing, remember, you're saying, all right, well, how do we make the brain healthier? We're flooding it with some omega-3s and getting better sleep and da-da-da-da-da. So that's amazing. So like who could benefit from this? This is another idea.
Well, everybody, but
you've got autism.
Sure.
We talked about a little bit with, from my perspective, it's like you're looking at it from this perspective of optimizing, right? This is the new term I'm thinking about of personalized health, not just, oh, do this because it's gonotropic and it's good for you. It's like, no, like go under the hood and figure this out for you. Exactly. That's why I love functional genomics as a place with the functional medicine, so I can layer it in and go, oh, you're going to see my friend. You're doing neurofeedback. Let's do these things now.
Right.
Let's do these things in tandem. So who can benefit from neurofeedback?
Well, everybody can, and I'll come right back to that in a second. But I wanted to make sure that your audience understands distinctly what I'm trying to say about what this process is. And you hit on something of training. This is not a treatment. This is a training. we don't provide a treatment. Treatment is something you do to someone else. Training is something that the person is doing under the guidance of a trainer. We are the physical fitness trainers at the gym. We serve that same function. That person that you hire to work out your body doesn't lift the weights for you. You do.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
I say this continuously, yet people still ask me how many treatments is it going to take before.
Well, your brain is a physical muscle, right? We
course
have
it
to
is.
treat this like a muscle. This is why I
course
talk to
it is.
people about of meditation. It's one of the biggest things that ever helped me on a
Yep.
day-to-day basis.
Yep.
But this is like scrubbing, like what I would call, either a plant medicine experience or something like neurofeedback is like, it's also like a deep cleaning, right?
Yep.
You got to go do both.
Yep.
So I love the training because you're training that thing to do the things that are better
Yes,
than where you came from.
exactly.
That's why you're having sleep issues, because your brain's like wired that way. And the way the stress response system works, people, is also, I hope people are listening too, is like, you didn't get there overnight.
Exactly right.
Like there's decades of this sometimes for people where they've got constant overload of constant sympathetic overdrive, and they're in the stress, fight, flight, freeze response constantly. Like you touched on that. It's like, we're not wired that way. We were supposed to run from the tiger. We got eaten or we didn't. We went back into the cave and we went to sleep. We were able to shut that down.
Exactly.
But now in ways, it's like we're in that constant jitter of all the stressors, and we're imbalanced. This is why I love heart math. We're imbalanced in the parasympathetic and the sympathetic tone, because you can only be in one or the other.
Right.
You can't be in both at the same time.
Right.
And so this neurofeedback is also helping the body getting into that more.
Exactly. And it's what the vagus nerve has taught us.
Right.
The exploration of the vagus nerve. Well, it's connected. Your brain is connected to all the organs in your body for a reason. They don't function all on their own. I mean, yes, you can make the heart sort of function for a while, I suppose. But what's the point? The brain and the gut are connected. It's a bilateral conversation. The gut is telling the brain things. There's some things going on down here. You better pay attention. Your brain is, I'm really, really stressed. So what happens? Your heart rate increases. Your adrenaline starts flowing, blah, blah, blah. So this is a constant dialogue. It happens 24/7. The good news is the brain is, when you look across the landscape of the animal kingdom, we have the most flexible brains, period. By far. No one's even close. It's why we run this place. We're not determined by our biology. We can change so many aspects. We have a handful of hardwired things like eating and sleeping and sex. But, most of it is completely malleable. That's the good news about neuroplasticity. Shocking that nobody understood that 100 years ago, that the brain was flexible. But we can call it a recent discovery of neuroplasticity. But it's so obvious in retrospect. Well, of course it is. It would have to be.
Well, let's spend a few moments there as we wind this thing down, because I these are huge points. Like, we used to think, like, we can talk about epigenetics and neuroplasticity. These are more or less newer concepts, but it's the concept that we can change our neurologic brains. We can change when things wire together, they fire together, Hebb's law. Like, we know that we can train this thing rather than being dictated by the environment, right?
Exactly.
I have a trauma. All traumas can be worked through.
Sure.
But we have to go underneath, like you said. We can't get into the surface level and go into the intellect from this perspective. We have to go down, right?
Exactly.
So I love this neurofeedback approach because it's a tool. I love how we're on the same wavelength with, like, hey, I'm going to be your guide. We're going to coach you along the way, but the coach doesn't play the game.
Right.
And the best of the world always have a coach.
Right.
So we always have to learn and be guided through these processes, which is just find your coach, your guru, whatever you want to call it, because we're able to allow this, now that we have these tools. This is why this podcast to me is so important, is like, we have ancient wisdom and we have modern science, and we can fuse this together. So you're not going to John to do the neurofeedback to fix you guys. We're going there because that's a tool in the toolbox. we have this new modern science that understands this neuroplasticity, and we can change the things we want to modify in a better way, kind of like moving down the path, but not understanding it's like one path. It's like moving over there. And then when you get home, yeah, guess what? You get to sleep better. You get to do better hygiene. You get to do all these things that are going to help you.
Exactly.
And then you look 6 months down the road and you're like, look where you came from.
Exactly.
Holy crap, I'm eating better. And people, like I've said it almost on every podcast when we talk about longevity and brain health and foggy brain and all these things. The number 1, 2, 3, and best thing you could do is sleep better.
Yep.
Like stop with all the other stuff. Just get that sleep working. And this is why I think neurofeedback has helped me too, is it does, because when we talk about neuroplasticity too, and you tell me from your perspective, is as you start training the brain and we get into these new neural networks and this default mode starts to adapt, it becomes a new set point, right? It becomes the new norm.
Yep.
And sometimes that's disruptive to patients that have been living in high beta, high anxiety, high levels of emotional states. So I love that you say like you're getting really good results from an emotional regulation.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't need more of that?
Yeah. Well, because we think how many, I've had many of them. Well, my success in life is due to the fact that I am relentlessly thinking all the time and strategizing and all the rest. Okay. You become a successful attorney, accountant, whatever. What's the cost to you? You're here for a reason. You can't sleep. You're taking Prilosec every day. You know what? You get on the list. This whole thing down here is not working for you because this up here is running the show. It doesn't run the show. It's part of it. It's a part of the show. And you are pushing it past its tolerance levels. If you sleep 4 or 5 hours a night and you think you're going to catch up on the weekends, your life is absolutely going to be shorter, for sure.
We know this.
That's clear in the science.
For a fact, yes.
That is hard to tell a 35-year-old that sentence. Okay, now do you want to live to be 80, or do you and healthy, or 90, or do you want to be dead at 58 from a stroke or a heart attack? It's your choice. You can do this. I'm telling you where it's going to end up. You don't have to believe me. Go read some science for yourself. It's pretty obvious. So getting these things into alignment is the key to not have to depend on the cognitive experience of this is the best way for me to function. I've always functioned this way, and this is my best self. I'm here to tell you it's not. Your best self is an attuned, relaxed, attentive, but not in action in every single moment of your life. That's your best self. You have never experienced it, so you don't know what it's like. Talk to somebody who's done 3 decades of meditation practice. They'll tell you. Now, you probably don't have time to go to a monastery in Tibet for the next 30 years. Neurofeedback can help get you to at least a recognition of what that looks like. Now you start adding in your own meditation, home practice, meditative practice. Now you start adding in some of the other elements. You will find a power of performance that you can't even imagine, because beta only gets you so far.
Well, and it's been my journey too. Like it's been my process of discovery. It's almost like I got to the age of 48 and I'm like, oh, I just learned half of it. It's like moving from here into here.
Yeah.
It's this connection, right? This you said it, alignment.
Exactly.
And because we've been so much in the age of information for so long, it's like we've trained ourselves past to the point where we forgot about purpose. We forgot about life and connectivity and how we're all interrelated and all of that good stuff. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's what I love helping people do, is help them find that for them. Because then you're right. How good does life go when you are in that whole alignment of your specific purpose on the planet, and you get to do well from it? Exactly. So where can people find you, John? You got thebalancedbrain.com, right?
Exactly right. Balancebrain.com. If you happen to be in Los Angeles, you can come and do neurofeedback with me. If you're not, if you're somewhere else on this planet, find somebody in your local area who knows what the heck they're talking about in terms of that, and ask them questions like Josh is alluding to here. Ask them questions about their connection to the functional medicine world. This is not a technique that exists in a vacuum. It does for lots and lots of providers out there in the world. And my encouragement to any practitioners who are listening to this is find a functional doctor in your community. Find some people who are in alignment with what Josh and I are talking about and build that into the way you present. It doesn't have to be anything you know how to do. I'm not a functional doctor. I can't do what our functional medicine people do. We have a naturopath we just added in. I can't prescribe stuff. I can't do that kind of deep analytics. That's what she's here for. Our coach is here to coach people through implementation of the things that the naturopath and she will come up with. I'm not that guy.
It's the team approach. It's like,
absolutely.
Remember, you have a coach, but you also have a team.
Yep.
Right? You don't play the game by yourself. This is the game of life. You are the driver. And, that's why I became a functional medicine provider, was because I wanted to bridge that gap between all this pills and all these things and go, all right, let's start moving you off that. This is why our biggest mission is to deprescribe 10 million unnecessary medications, because how do you make a medication unnecessary? Well, lifestyle, functional medicine, and doing your own part. That's it.
Yep.
So I love that you've got that. So
yeah. And I agree with you 100%. Most of these medications are completely pointless.
Well, but the thing is people, I used to go through this, and they used to think that like, oh, you're against medication. No, it's when you get to that point where you got nothing, but it's not the fix. It's not the cure. It's not the people. We've been trained, guys, that this is okay. It's not your fault. It's like, we're the only country that advertises medicines like this. It does, like, there's so much around, we'll fix you. So if you got nothing out of this, guys, it's like, hey, look for yourself to fix you and find your team. I call it find your tribe.
Right.
That's how I think. So as we kind of, thank you, right? This is a beautiful.
And by the way, to the point of medications, Josh, look at the side of the box. Any consumer can do this themselves. How long does it take that you should take this? 3 to 4 months. What are you doing on a benzodiazepine for 10 years? Oh. It doesn't say anywhere on that box that that's okay to do.
Or you mentioned the PPI, the Prilosec. We're not designed for long-term effects. Yet That's what we do. And here's the deal. Lifestyle medicine, neurofeedback, little to no problems, little to no side effects. There's no LD50 that you're going to die if you do too much neurofeedback, right? You do too much, sleep hygiene and good food nutrition. You're not going to have the side effect profile that you hear about on the news, right?
Exactly.
Or other commercials.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's not a monthly commitment for, multiple decades of ingesting toxic substances, which, the easy takeaway of medications is, and people take them all the time, anti-anxietals, antidepressants, you're flooding your entire brain with a particular, reuptake inhibitor, let's say. Now, maybe some of your parts of your brain might need to have some more of that. Not all of your brain. That's why you have a side effect. Now you're telling the rest of your brain, no, I got plenty of dopamine. What are you doing to me over here? I got plenty of serotonin. Stop, please.
Yeah, that's why I love playing with the biochemistry of the feedback systems, and why I look under the hood like that, because, we're not downplaying this, guys, but we want to express this awareness around, let's start thinking about maybe the things I'm doing aren't exactly the best for me.
Exactly.
And opening up that door, that wormhole, that portal, whatever you want to think about it as we move forward in this new era of what I feel is more rooted around true healing, not symptom resolution.
Exactly. And the shamans of old understood this.
Yeah, this is why I love studying shamanism, and why I'm going through this whole process myself of moving in that direction, because there's so much wisdom packed around what we've been doing for a long time that we just forgot. And now it's time to bring it back into this equation and put that little modern flair into it.
Yep.
So.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Well,
Josh, this was great.
Oh, I'm so glad that we did this, John. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to end with? If there's one thing that you want people to know as we drop this mic here, what do you want them to know?
That whatever you're challenged by right now, there is a solution for you. There really is. It may not be as simple as you think it could be. Oh, I just take a pill. No, taking a pill for your anxiety is not the solution. Finding out why you're anxious, addressing that. What's the substrate upon which you experience the emotion of anxiety? If you dig down deep enough, you're going to find the answers. But it's going to take some work on your part. It's not just handing yourself over to some lab-coated person who's going to give you wisdom. The wisdom is in you. It always has been.
There it is, right there. Boom. It's inside of all of us. We all have the capacity to heal. Thank you, my friend. This has been an amazing episode. Until next time, guys, stay well. Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to deprescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.